as they lifted up their voices in prayer. Oh, the church in the valley, oh, that little white church is a place I love so well. Now I'm sad and lonely, yes, I'm sad and lonely. Oh, that little white church in the dell. They would sing the old song, Rock of Ages. Oh Christ, let me hide myself in thee. And I know some of them are now waiting just over their dark and stormy sea. I know their troubles are all ended, and happy forever they will be. They are waiting and watching up yonder for the coming home of you and me. Oh, the church in the valley, oh, that little white church is a place I love so well. Now I'm sad and lonely, yes, I'm sad and lonely. Oh, that little white church in the dell. Oh, that little white church in the dell.
Good morning. This is David Davis with your Angela Minor, and we're doing Listen In. And this morning we have as our host a candidate for Senate, Joe Wilmoth. He's running for the under the Constitutional Party, and I hope that we get a good understanding of what the Constitution Party is all about and why you should vote for Joe Wilmoth. This is Whoop FM 99.9. We're live and semi-live anyway from Cleveland, Tennessee, and we're streaming on www.woopfm.com. Angela,
good morning, David.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Wilmoth.
Good morning.
I would also like to welcome Randy Barlow, who is your campaign manager. Good morning, Mr. Barlow.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Pleasure to have you both. Let's start out, if you guys don't mind, with a little background. Mr. Wilmoth, if you'll just tell us a little about yourself and where you come from and what you've done for a living. And
I was actually born in Tennessee. Went to Ohio when I was very young and worked up there for many years in police work, different jobs. Worked at NCR, National Cash Register. Met my wife up there on a blind date and did not realize it at the time, but she was from Livingston, Tennessee, just up the road from where I was born. I lived in the edge of Overton County at that time, but we lived closer to Cookeville, so we always went to Cookeville. I am a farmer, small business, and that's basically my life. My wife, we were married for 61 years, or 50, yes, that's 61 years. And she passed away about a month ago. She had been bedridden about 8 years, and she had her operation down here in Chattanooga. Had cancer, a rare kind of cancer at the time. And they gave her 5 years, she lived 8. The last 3 was rough on her, but other than that, well.
Right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm glad you're with us and you're working toward your goal.
And my big interest in running for, I've got 14 grandkids, 13 great-grandkids already. And my biggest interest started a few years back that the Lord really started dealing with me we've got to do something for our country. My children, your children, our children today, does not have the opportunity that I had. Matter of fact, I don't see no opportunity out there for any of them without we take our country back. And I feel like both parties are responsible for the condition we're in today.
Well, I see that you're running under the Constitution Party. For those who aren't familiar, if one of y'all could tell us about that.
I'm going to let Randy tell you about the Constitutional Party.
Okay.
He's a better speaker than I am.
Oh.
The Constitution Party in the United States is about 25 years old. In Tennessee, it's near the same thing. The preamble to the Constitution Party says that we acknowledge God for his blessing, guidance, protection, and sustainment, declare that the organization's bedrock foundation is the Holy Bible, the fundamental truths that are found therein, and that God has endowed us with unalienable rights. Therefore, the only legitimate function of government is to secure those rights. There's 3 documents that actually built the United States from the 1700s. It's the Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. And the Constitution Party favors us going back to that foundation, and if changes need to be made, let's do it. But let's go back to the things that made this country great to begin with. 16th and 17th Amendments are prime examples of things that we may need to take a look at. The 16th Amendment created the income tax. The 17th Amendment converted the election of the United States Senate from the state legislatures to the citizens to a public vote. The senators under the original Constitution were intended to be the representative of the state governments to make sure that the states were properly represented as sovereign states. The House of Representatives was to represent the people. The 17th Amendment took that away and put the election of the senators to the general public. As a result, states are being hit now with mandates, many of which are unfunded. And the state governments actually have no representation in Washington. No one's accountable to our governor and legislatures of the states. And there's one of the things that the Constitution Party would like to see is the 16th and 17th Amendments withdrawn or repealed.
What's the difference between the Libertarian and a Tea Party?
Well, basically, many of the great goals are the same between the Constitution Party and the Libertarian, which is much less government. Government has grown ungainly because it has exceeded Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution says exactly what the federal government should be doing. And our government has grown in little bitty bits. Now, nobody really does something overt. We go just a little bit beyond this time, and then the next one we stretch it a little bit further. Both the Libertarian Party and the Constitution Party favor smaller government. Now, the Tea Party, I can't really speak to the Tea Party because what we have seen and what I would feel comfortable talking about is 2 different things. So somebody from the Tea Party would need to address that.
Okay.
But I am not upset with the Tea Party, and I'm not ready to criticize the Tea Party at all. I think we have many common goals.
Okay, good. Well put. Joe, why are you running for Senate?
Because of the way that our country is, our children, our grandchildren, mine, yours, does not have a future on the way that we're going today. We need to really bring back our infrastructure. Everything that we have, it's got China, Indonesia, or some other name on it. We do not have 2 factories. We do not have factories to build air conditioners anymore. I think we have got 1 still, but the rest of them are out of this country. 99% of all of our infrastructure has been moved to other countries, and we're buying it back. We need to take our infrastructure back, and we would be a great country again if we did our own thing. And we need to get rid of welfare such as it is today. Welfare is something that needs to be moved back to the church where it belongs. And we do not need to give welfare to people that's coming across our borders or from other countries. As soon as they get here, we do not need it. Right now, I guess welfare is probably one of the biggest costs there is. I know we're spending over $3 billion a day more than we're taking in, the government is. And this has all got to stop. It's got to stop. Our government right now, both parties seem like are working to where that they can totally control the people, tell us what to do, what to say, what to do, whatever. Worse than Russia was under Stalin.
So controlling the public
Control them.
through funding, through money.
Funding, right.
Okay. And
That's the reason they're going for the green. That's the reason. And, really, I realized our president, when he first ran, got up and said that we're no longer a Christian nation. We are a Christian nation. But he is trying to prove it, and now then they seem like the parties are trying to prove that God isn't real. Everything that they do is trying to make God out a liar. That's just like they're saying about the warming and the cooling of the nation. The Bible teaches that we'll have plant time and harvest until he comes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I heard several exciting topics in there. Let's go to. I want to ask you a question. You mentioned your children, your grandchildren. To me, that sounds like the American dream. Is what we used to know that as the American dream. Is that a myth now? And is it possible for our kids to pursue the American dream today?
It is not possible. I realized one of the questions was, would a person with a high school education have it? I do not believe that the person that's got a college degree has an opportunity today. There's nothing out there. I was born one of 10 kids. There's 5 girls and 5 boys, and on a farm. And I've still got a farm, part-time. And I enjoy it, but if people had not have backed me when I went in business, when I moved back here, my brother asked me to come back. We went to an independent restaurant. Independent's really hard to make anything, because everything, people don't realize it, but everything in all small business, just not restaurants, all small business is worked on percentages. Everything that you do is a percent. And you have to control those percentages if you ever make a dollar yourself. And I've always said the dollar goes out to other people. We keep the pennies, the people in business. And the government is trying to take that away from us too, that they will control all of it and get it all. And it's just not right. But like I say, we do not have a chance without. There was a banker that backed me when I went into the Burger King business. And without his backing, I would not be successful today. And I realized it was the Lord that had him to do it and had me to do what I've done and has blessed me in it. But it's still, if we just do not have that today, and like I say, they're trying to get us totally away from God. They're trying to turn us into a Muslim nation, really. It's in our colleges now, it's in our schools, everything that seems like they're moving toward that, and that's not right. We are an American, we are a Christian nation, and we need to get back to it. And our churches really need to crawl out of the dark age and stand up for God and Jesus Christ. They really do. The church has let us down, same as our politicians, and they need to get back strong. And I've heard of one place down in South America, and I heard it right now. It's happening in Oklahoma, I believe it is, that they're trying to get the churches to unite. You know, the Bible teaches if you're divided, you cannot stand. The church needs to unite with one voice and start something to where that they can take care one voice. The church could actually take our country back real easy by voting if they would just unite and speak out and go as one. They're going to have to, or they're going to be destroyed too. That's what they're after right now, trying to prove there's no God in our system of government.
Well, if we could backtrack just a bit on about the American dream, do you see any role that government can play in job creation, like infrastructure development,
No.
anything along that line?
No. The government's not smarter. Everything that the government has touched, I don't care what it is, you name it, or mail carriers, or welfare, you name any of it, or insurance, anything. They do not need to be in any kind of business. The president, his job is to take care of our borders and to take care of any foreign invasion. That's his job only, according to the Constitution. We need to take the back. He needs to come back to that. We do not need anything done from that. We have business people that has dreams, ideals, put them together and go out and do it. They accomplish things. That's where it needs to be back to the people.
What is your position about a federal minimum wage or raising that minimum wage?
Minimum wage, the only thing that happens, see, I was around when you got 50 cents a day. I was around when you could buy a car, a brand new one, for $1,900. Matter of fact, they didn't go over $3,000 until 1970. And I know the only thing minimum wage does, and I've seen it, I think we should keep it at $7 though. But only thing that minimum wage does is helps the government. It raises taxes on everything. It doesn't help middle class, the lower class, or any of them, because I can remember where for $10 you could fill 2 baskets. I'm talking about grocery stores of groceries. And now then it takes around $200. The only thing that it helps is the federal government. Their taxes go up and they make more money. I know it's been out over the news that we should actually raise taxes on gasoline. My theory is that the government, county, city, state, federal, all should have to pay gas taxes. They burn more gas than we do, so they should have to pay it same as we do. They should pay taxes on food. They have to have food same as we do. They should pay taxes on food. They should pay taxes on water. We have to pay taxes on water. The essentials of life, if we have to pay them, the federal government should pay them. And I think that's the only right thing to do. And if they did that, then they would quit yipping about us raising our taxes on it.
Well, one more thought on this topic: how do we bring jobs back? How do we create jobs?
How do
in
we
this country?
create jobs? Well, I've known people in my at one time, just in our Putnam County, we had 3 factories that made furniture. Now we do not have. We had 4 or 5 different places, now not all in just Putnam County, but in our area, that made shirts, pant factories. We had dress factories there. We had boot factories there at that time, and now we have none of that. Matter of fact, in our area, that's what made it survive. Everybody lived good, and everything was moving good. Now then, the federal government, through minimum wage, has raised it so bad. The people that had shirt factories, I know one personally, he's a friend of mine. Him and another guy own 2 shirt factories there. And the last 2 years they were in business, they had to order 50% of their clothing from China to break even. Minimum wage and things of that, and you couldn't go up on it enough to do it. Mm-hmm. Right now, we don't even know how to make cloth. We don't know how to do a lot of stuff. So it's going to have to be a learning. We still have people that's alive that made shirts and things like that, and I'm sure we still have people alive that knew how to make cloth. We need to get back now while we have those and get the technology. And I realize that it'd be a slow process of coming back, but we need to get started now of all of it. And I'm talking about all over it. 2 factories. We don't even have no steel mills like we used to have. Nothing out there that we used to make do we have like we used to. It all needs to come back here. It needs to USA if you buy something in the United States, and then we would be a strong country.
Keep going. You're doing fine.
Could I add something here?
Certainly.
For just a moment. On the fact you ask how to bring it back. Our tax laws are part of what's creating a problem. Everybody talks about let's raise the taxes on the rich. But so many of our companies are doing business overseas. American-based companies that have subsidiaries that are doing business overseas. There's substantial taxes on bringing the money that are profits from overseas back to the United States just for bringing the money across the border. I think if we did a moratorium, and Joe and I have discussed this at length, if we did a moratorium on collecting taxes on funds, on profits, foreign profits that have been repatriated to the United States, say 5 years, let's let them bring back the profits they made in France and Europe and other countries and other continents, bring it back to the United States without having to pay the tax on it, so long as they used it to invest into their companies, so they were creating jobs and creating additional infrastructure. We're not making any taxes on it now with it staying overseas. If it came back, it could possibly generate a boost to our economy. Our economy is currently stagnant and not coming back. We need that investment.
And, I believe, too, that we have a lot of millionaires, that would actually donate the money to build factories starting back out. I'm talking about the shirt factory and boot factories and things like that to get started again. And if we could move them back on a 501k, even the union's got a 501k. There's too many people got them. But if we move them back to where they could have no taxes on their land and no taxes going out other than on profit, and make it 10% or something like that until they get back strong again. Matter of fact, I think 10% should be all that they get. The Jesus Christ runs the nations on a 10%. That's all he asks for.
So you wouldn't tax equipment or
right.
anything.
Well, yourself, in the restaurant and the industrial, we get taxed on our ice cream machines, our milk machine, you name it, and it's all taxed. Uh-huh. We need to really work on that. And they claim that we've got over 200 different departments in federal government now. Those need to be eliminated back down to just what is necessary. And very, very, very few departments do we need in federal government. They're supposed to take care of the Army. They're not doing that. They're treating our soldiers pitiful about their retirement and everything else and their health care. But look at, if you go in there as a senator, you get the best insurance that money can buy, free. You get all of anything you want, taxes, massages, you name it, free, food, and then get money handed out every which way to get you to vote a certain way. All that needs to stop. Term limits should be put in place. The money, they should have to answer for every penny that comes in every time they run again, on where it's coming from and how it was spent and all, other than just a regular paycheck.
So I heard you say the democratic process needs a bit of an overhaul.
It totally overhaul. We need to come back to the Constitution. If we come back to the Constitution, you take care not only of that, but you take care of welfare, because welfare belongs in the churches. And I'd say they're really not, probably 1 or 2% of the nation needs to be on welfare. the other 98% needs to work.
What do you think about? You were talking about the manufacturing infrastructure. Our transportation infrastructure needs work also. That was Eisenhower's, the interstate, and that was a good thing, I think. So, how would you repair the transportation infrastructure?
The infrastructure does not need to be in federal hands. And I realize that we have interstate highways. Anytime that you put anything into the hands of the federal government, it goes haywire. People see how they can rake off money, and then it goes. We need to bring back our infrastructure right. The states should take care of their roads, interstate roads through their area, and it should be done by contractors. We do not need, right now you go a lot of places, you'll see if it's a government job, well, just like our area, you see 100 people in Putnam County, and all they're doing is running the roads. They're really not doing anything to build the roads. Then they turn around and hire a contractor. So what they need to do there is actually on road building is maybe have 2 or 3, maybe I'd say 3, at least 3 people that's over that, spread out across the country, across the state. And they should be engineers and have offices in 3 parts of it. And your state troopers, your police, and people like that that's running the road should tell them where the roads are bad at. Wouldn't be no cost there. They could easily do that, tell them where it's at. And the engineers should go out and study it and make sure that it's done and done right. Most of our roads that they build, I know they've been working on a road from Cookeville to Monterey, which is a mountain type deal. They've been up there, I said they was going to build a truck route probably 15 years ago, and they've been up there twice and drug a little rock off the side of the banks. And then they haul that off, and then there are holes all the way up through there you need to drop it in, and they'll go buy new rock and put there. It's just a waste. Seems like everything they do is a waste. Not only, it really bothers me because we used to be the number 1 in education. We were the tops in engineering. We were tops in technology. We were tops in our schools, education. Today we're down to about 30. And 30 nations now, like I say, is higher than we are right today.
Well, aren't we comparing apples and oranges when we say that though? Because we educate everyone, and most other countries don't. And if they do, they have college tracks and vocational tracks. And
when our schools was in the hands of the people, counties, mom and dads, the state, we were number 1. Everybody got an education. It did not cost so much to go to college back then. Everybody wanted a college education, and if you wanted, you could go back then, could afford to go back then. They can't today. So it really needs to be moved back to the state and let them take care of it. If they want to teach foreigners, I have no problem with that. They want to bring them in, but they should come in on our terms, not bring their doctrine into our schools and into our colleges. And they're doing that bad right today.
you should teach them patriotism and American history and patriotism.
Right. I think they should be taught the Bible.
Did you have something?
I wanted to say something about education. And this has been about 10 years, and I don't know if things have changed or not, but 10 years ago, at Columbia State Community College in Columbia, which was Tennessee's first community college. It was attracting students from southern Middle Tennessee. 80% of the freshman students were having to take remedial classes before they could actually begin their college classwork. Now, we may be putting education into the hands of more children, but I think what Joe's referring to is the quality of education that they're getting. If our schools are doing the job they should be doing, our universities and colleges should not have to give remedial courses to 80% of the freshman students. So we need to do something different and create expectations and create a curriculum that actually teaches a kid how to add without it being 120 steps to add 2 and 2.
It sounds like what you want to do is return government to the lowest level.
To the local level.
Right.
To the local right.
So you'd have to restructure the tax system and just everything. You'd just have to restructure everything.
Well, they've got 5,000 employees in Washington telling our teachers and schools how they're going to go, and most of it now is bringing in Muslims. I know in our school, in our college there, they brought a guy that wrote a book on the prayers and things and required the first year students to read it in our college there. They just had, what was it, yesterday, day before, the Brotherhood come in and speak to them. It's not right.
What Brotherhood?
The Muslim Brotherhood.
Oh.
Abu Patel, who is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, who is an advisor in Washington, wrote a book, and his book was required reading for certain of the freshman students at Tennessee Tech University. Then he came in to speak to them actually on Tuesday of this week. So the influence of other governments is becoming very strong.
And they won't accept the Bible in it. They should be required to teach their students the Word of God. We are set up on the Word of God. We're set up on the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It needs to stay there.
Okay.
Specifically, what about Common Core? What's
Common
your
Core needs to be
position?
done away with, period.
Okay. Tell me why.
Why? I'm going to let Helen explain that.
It's a federal program. And
Okay, beyond that. I see the theme, specifically why
education
Common Core.
should be specifically out. I have read, and quite frankly, and I'm going to give you the straightest answer I know how to give you.
Please do.
I have read so much about Common Core, but I have seen some of the curriculum that is there and some of the math Common Core practices that the correct answer, if not achieved by using the Common Core methodology, is marked as wrong. And we're recreating a tremendous amount of things, and history is being completely rewritten and written in such a way as it is an indoctrination. So it's
a substantive complaint from you rather than a procedural.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and we need to take a look at it. And we need to take a look at who holds the copyrights on the materials that have been put forth, and find out who actually created the materials. It's not I'm not opposed to good education. We need good education, but we're in a rush to judgment, and it needs to be stopped and looked at realistically. And the state and local governments, the parents of the students, should have some real input into what their children are going to be taught. And this was started several years ago with federal grants that were coming down if you will sign off on Common Core. And all the fine print hadn't even been completed yet. The states did it for the sake of getting the money. Now it's time to pay the piper. and they're being expected to live up to the commitment they signed several years ago. And the commitment they signed to begin with hadn't even been completed. So we need to stop it and take a look at it. But David, you brought up one question or one comment that if you don't mind, I would like to speak to. And I can't speak for the Constitution Party, but I would like to address what you said. And you said if we did what Joe had suggested, it would require restructuring our government, restructuring our tax system, restructuring a tremendous amount of what we're going. Agreed. And that cannot be done overnight or quickly. But let's take a look. I mentioned the 16th and 17th Amendments earlier and said they need to be repealed. Both of those were passed in 1913. They were ratified in 1913 by the total number of states necessary to ratify. The 16th Amendment created the income tax. The 17th Amendment changed the United States senators from being elected by the state legislatures to being elected by the people. Now, prior to 1913, the federal government operated off excise taxes. In other words, each department was expected to be self-sufficient. The federal government provided the common defense. That's one of the things in the Constitution. And provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. And that doesn't include anything about EBT cards or food stamps. The common welfare is to make sure that we're safe. But the states were each sent a bill for the amount of money they had to pay based on the total number of people per state to pay for the common defense. All of these other departments were paid for by user fees, excise taxes, or a user fee in order to be able to do what the federal government required it to do. It was impossible at that point for the federal government to go excessively large, because if it didn't have a way of paying for itself because it had performed a use, it just didn't happen. When you establish the income taxes with the 16th Amendment and then took the state legislature's input out with the 17th Amendment, then the federal government was given a license to grow beyond what the mandate was for the federal government. And there goes your state sovereignty. There goes your state's ability, your state's rights, so to speak. And can it be fixed overnight? Absolutely not. It would probably take 50 years to fix what they unfixed with the 16th and 17th Amendments and we've dealt with for the last 100 years. So, yes, it would require substantial restructuring, but it's not necessarily a restructuring that should not be considered.
I heard a bunch of listeners just now saying out loud to their radio, if the federal dollars are the responsibility for federally funded programs passes to local and state, I could hear those listeners going, "Oh, that means me, my taxes are going up." Where does the money come from? You can't have programs without money. You've got to fund them. So how do we get the revenue stream?
Well,